So the game that I'm going to be playing is Ghosts and Goblins, which is an old arcade game. Um, there's been newer versions for like the NES, which I actually own. And so far, I can already tell the difference between the NES version and the arcade one. As in, the music for the arcade version is not so refined and kind of muddy. It doesn't sound as good. But you can still hear the bass theme of this game in the background, which is nice. After playing about for 30 minutes, this game is incredibly difficult, uh, but it is also pretty fun to play for the most part. I would assume that um, this game probably drew a few crowds in an arcade, because since it was just so hard to play that anyone doing well uh, probably made people want to watch. And for its graphics are still pretty close to the ones for the NES. The NES are probably slightly better just because of hardware. The characters, um, they're like the characters okay. Um, you got your knight here. I can't actually remember his name, and then you have all these enemies, which are various versions of undead things, like some zombies. There are crows that fly you, some plants that spit projectiles that you gotta dodge. Um, for for an arcade game, you move relatively quickly. Like your character can jump around very quickly. You can move around and maneuver, which is most part of this game because you have to dodge a lot of the enemy attacks so that you don't end up getting hit, because you only have two chances of getting hit before your life you run out. First off, your armor pops off, and then you're in your underwear. And the second time, you just turn into a skeleton when you lose. But it's pretty fun. I guess towards newer games, you probably won't see a lot of connections because there's not really too many 2D platformers around. But difficulty-wise, you could definitely see that in a few more modern games, such as Dark Souls, with like you have to be you have to hone your skills in this game to be able to play it effectively, because there is just a lot that goes on that could basically kill you in the game, so you gotta learn as you go how to continue. Um, and for the scoring, I would say it's not as good as the NES one. As I said before, it's a bit muddy. It's not. There's not a lot of sounds that can actually be heard because they just couldn't play that many sounds on an arcade than they could with the NES, because you would be playing out of a speaker of a TV, which is a little more technological than for an arcade machine. Um, but it's still the music's still good. It is not like impossible to hear. Like, it's not like you won't purposely not play the game just because it didn't sound too good. But these are my thoughts on this game, and maybe I'll continue playing on the NES version, which I actually own, because it is a little easier to play than on this emulator.